Hi, my name is Lorraine and I am 35 and I am a mum of two. Our eldest daughter Talia is 4, almost 5. She'll be 5 in April. And then our youngest son Theo is 3. He will be 4 in October. And Theo was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in May of last year, so it's almost been a year since he's had his diagnosis. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a very turbulent and difficult journey to point to where we are today. It's still very difficult. We have good days, more good days than we used to have, in terms of acceptance of, maybe not acceptance, but just kind of coming to terms with Theo's diagnosis. But we do still also have bad days as well. Don't get me wrong, obviously we adore Theo and love him for who he is, but it is also a very daunting prospect as a parent to accept that your child has a disability, and a disability that is lifelong and that is going to affect his future and kind of distorts away from perhaps your traditional views of what you would imagine your child's life and path to take. Obviously, it's going to be completely different to the path of our daughter. I mean, we are unsure of what Theo's future will hold, and I think that's what I mean by being a turbulent and difficult journey to date, is trying to come to terms with those things in our minds as parents. And obviously, with something like autism, there is no graph or path or line that a child on the spectrum will follow. There's no guarantees of what Theo will and won't do. We kind of just have to wait for the day that he does do things or doesn't do things. And I think that is probably quite difficult, because I think with other conditions they can say that your child definitely isn't going to be able to do this, and I think you can kind of come to terms with that in your mind and go through a process. But for us, I mean, there's no guarantees of anything. I mean, currently Theo is non-verbal. He may remain non-verbal, or he may have speech but not effective communication, as in being able to kind of withhold conversations with people, or he may be able to do that. We just don't know, and I think that's kind of a very difficult and challenging process for us to kind of get our heads around. And I mean, as I said, some days are better than others, and I feel really positive about the outlook and future for Theo. But then there are other days when I still really struggle with trying to come to terms with what the future might hold for him. In the UK, the process for a child with autism to obtain the correct educational setting is quite a difficult path. It's not straightforward. The general consensus is that they are to go to a mainstream school setting and see how they are in that setting, and then assess accordingly to their needs. If they need further support, they will assess that, and then it will take them time to raise funding, and then support will be put into place. Theo is almost 3.5, and technically he should be in a preschool setting. Our daughter went to preschool when she was 3, for 15 hours a week, which technically Theo is also entitled to, but as parents, myself and my husband feel that Theo would struggle significantly in a mainstream setting, and we don't feel confident or comfortable sending him there without the correct support. I mean, even if he did have say a one-to-one support in a mainstream setting, I still think that kind of setting would be very difficult for him. So we are currently in the process of trying to complete something called an education healthcare plan, which hopefully would then allow Theo to attend a specialist school setting in our neighbouring town, which we have visited, myself and my husband visited, and we absolutely loved the school, the setting. It seemed absolutely perfect for Theo. So we're just kind of going through that battle. I say battle because it's just a very long, drawn out process, which I'm sure many of you can understand and appreciate. You've either gone through or are going through that process also. Yes, so that's kind of what we are doing or currently trying to do at the moment is the education healthcare plan for Theo. It, as I said, is a long drawn out process, can take up to 6 months for the plan to be put together, and then at the end of that they will let us know their thoughts on what they think provision wise Theo should have. So we've got everything crossed that once that all goes through and they start putting the plan together, that they will agree that Theo is best suited to a specialist setting, and that he can hopefully go to the local specialist school, and because he would be due to start full-time school in 2019, in September 2019, so we've got just over a year to try and get everything put together for that. So I kind of want him to be able to go to like a preschool setting prior to that, to get him used to the whole educational setting, and you know, it being much more routine and structured than it is at home. So in the meantime, while he's not at a preschool setting, we are trying to do lots of different therapies at home here with him, which is challenging in itself because Theo is a little boy where everything is on his agenda. You can see some baby pictures of him in the background. He's currently upstairs having some quiet time, meant to be going to sleep, but Theo struggles a lot with sleep and switching off, so we shall see. So we are trying to do some therapies with him at home. We've had a couple of sessions with speech and language. As I said, Theo is non-verbal. He gets extremely frustrated with trying to communicate with us, so we are trying to implement a communication system for him so that hopefully we can reduce that frustration for him. And at the moment we are just starting off trying to use something called PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System, which I don't know whether many of you have used yourself. I'm sure there will be people out there who have used it and have found it very successful, but we are just at the very beginning of our journey with PECS, and so we're just seeing how Theo takes to that, and hopefully that's something that he will take to and will help reduce his frustration with communication. We are also using some occupational therapy at home with Theo. He has a sensory diet which an occupational therapist has put together for him, which are there to help with his sensory needs. Theo is a little boy who is very sensory led, everything he does is for sensory input, but I'll go into that more in detail in another video, I think, because that's quite in depth. So yeah, my plan is to upload videos of the things that we do at home with Theo, the challenges that we face as a family with a child who is on the spectrum, the challenges that he faces, the day-to-day running of a household with a child on the autism spectrum. I hope to be able to show the level of discrimination that a child on the spectrum faces, something that hadn't even crossed my mind, or something that would have ever occurred to me prior to having a child with a disability. I think you just assume that when children have difficulties or have certain things wrong with them, that they get all the help and support that they need, but we've found a great deal of difficulties, obstacles and discrimination, and that's just in the very early days for Theo. So my aim really is to try and highlight that, to build and gain awareness of autism, the spectrum, the breadth of the spectrum, and how it is different in every child, young person and adult. I mean, when we meet people who say they have experience of autism, they seem to be quite surprised with how Theo presents, which always is a surprise to me. So yeah, my aim is to strengthen awareness and highlight the difficulties faced by us as parents and also by the child. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. So I just wanted to introduce myself and to invite you on our journey. So thank you, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.